Do you really have good men in your life? Good men who give a shit, will really be there for you when the going gets tough. We should be continually evolving as a man, working on ourselves, identifying the things that we want to improve, and also trying to be better in our relationships, really finding the source of your power.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself, and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up, because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior, and on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to the Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Nikki Ballou. We have a very special guest with us today, a man deeply involved in the work of men, Eric Axelrod. Welcome, Axelrod.
Thank you, Ballou. It's good to be here with you today.
Good to be here with you too, my man. So, brother, tell us your story, man. How'd you get to be involved in the work of men?
Yeah, so, I found myself kind of longing for something maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. A lot of my friends were heading in different directions that I wasn't heading, my male friends, and doing things that I really wasn't interested in. And a person close to me mentioned this work, being involved with men, finding a path. And the thing that really resonated with me of all the things that I heard in the beginning was really finding the source of your power. But long story short is that I was fortunate because it all made a lot of sense to me. And from the moment that I started talking to the men about it, I was very excited about the possibility and what it could mean for me in my life.
So let's unpack a bit of what you said. Finding the source of your power. That comes from the purpose of the Sterling Men's Weekend, which is a program you and I have done. What does that mean, finding the source of your power as a man? Break that down for us. Let's get specific.
So, I really kind of didn't have a good rudder as to the direction I was heading in. While a lot of things were going really well for me in my life, like I was successful, and I had, what seemed like a pretty good group of friends, I really didn't have some foundational skills that I really needed as a man.
Such as?
I didn't have a good sense of purpose. I kind of felt unconnected or I definitely felt unconnected to the men who were my friends.
Yep.
And like I just alluded to, they were heading in different directions, and I really needed men who wanted to be there and listen, wanted to talk to me about what was going on. And, I didn't realize what was missing until it came. And then once I joined circles of men, I recognized how the absence, how significant that absence was, if that makes sense.
So tell me about the absence. The absence of what exactly? Like, what was it that you felt was the absence?
So I was unsure of what it was, but what it is having men who are willing to really listen to you, having other men who talk about what's going on for them and are real, drop their mask and tell me what's going on, and then able to see myself in them. Just to share something personal, I definitely had a lot of issues around anger and, not recognizing how that really could drive women away, and also how it made a lot of people very uncomfortable.
Yeah, women don't like a man who displays a lot of anger. That's for sure.
No, and it's also like it's a terrible quality when you're trying to accomplish things, because if you respond in anger, then everyone is walking on eggshells. Versus if you're able to express your frustration in a way that people can understand, especially your women, you're much more likely to accomplish something positive and reach a resolution.
Well, there's a lot to be said for that. Anger is one of the emotions that Justin Sterling talked about in his weekend that men have and drives men. But there's a book called Power versus Force. It was written by a guy named Dr. David Hawkins, and he's passed on now, but he worked with the Nobel laureate Linus Pauling. And in it, he outlines the scale of consciousness and the level of energy that certain human emotions have. And their emotions, which he said are below the median line, that are primary negative in their vibration, right? And anger is like at 100. And 100 is below 200 are the negative emotions. So if you're operating as a man out of anger most of the time, you're in negativity most of the time. Your ability to attract positive, good, wonderful results in circumstances and people in your life is not there. You know, an angry man is not a happy man. And I think men today feel very lost. Maybe you felt lost. I never felt lost, but looking back now, I realize I was lost. I just was living in fucking la la land.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? I was
yes,
lost. I was living in
100%.
la la land. I know what to do. And that bullshit of what I thought I knew what to do cost me my marriage, right? Because I didn't handle my ex-wife well as a woman, as a husband ought to handle his wife. And that caused my marriage to completely disintegrate and break up. And who the hell wants or needs that as a man? I mean, marriage breakups are horrible. You know, they're bad for the man, they're bad for the woman, they're bad for the children, they're especially bad for the children. And anger is a key driver of why a woman will want to move away from a man. A man who lives in anger is going to freak out his woman, you know, and over time, she's going to like emotionally distance herself until finally she goes. Right?
Yeah. And, so the thing that I recognized, Balu, was that anger is part of who I am, but at the same time, it's when to show my anger. And that is really around my men, right? And I mentioned before, kind of dropping your mask, is if you're able to control your anger,
Yeah.
and not scare your woman or even your kids, right? Your kids are going to be scared if you're an angry man.
Yeah.
And I think most men can agree that it's the emotion that we could, it's just the easiest. Like,
Yeah.
somebody says something to us and we can go 0 to 100 almost immediately.
We could.
And it's really, it's bad. Like you just said, it's bad for our relationships, and it's not who we want to be. And so it's really identifying when you're going to get there, and also being in a circle of other men who are similar in that way, and being able to see yourself in them and the consequences that they have for not having good control of their anger was also a significant step in me seeing why it was really important. Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of things around this. So you went and you did the work, and you started to be involved in a group with other men, and you saw, holy fuck, I don't have control of my anger. My anger has control of me. So that's one of the things you decided you wanted to tackle. What else was beneficial for you, and what else is beneficial for men out of being in a group? Like, why the fuck should a man be with other men? Because it takes a lot of your time and energy to actually do that, right?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And there's lots of reasons, but I'll just talk about some of the reasons for me. I was a bad listener. I used to hear what my woman was saying, talk over her, and then, get angry at her, even like when she was trying to talk out what was happening for her. And I recognized that what she really needed from me was just a good ear, and not to solve her problems, because, I wanted to solve her problems. I wanted to make them go away because I didn't want to hear about them anymore.
Right.
It's kind of funny. And so, simply by engaging in that, in the work, and learning this men's material, I recognize that listening and being, not trying to solve her problems, but helping her work them out was really a key driver. And the other thing is just feeling community from other men. I feel like I didn't have the community of people that I needed in my life. And, once I got involved in this work, all of that changed. And I recognized the real importance and what was missing. like you alluded to before.
So, why do you think men need other men in masculine only spaces? What's valuable for a man about that?
Yeah. So I would say that I see that a lot of men bullshit themselves. They think everything's okay. There's no problem with anything that's going on in their life. Everything's perfect. I ask men sometimes, like, what's on you change in your life? And a lot of men will say nothing. Like, I'm perfect, which is fucking bullshit. If you're just exactly right, then you're the one anomaly in the world. And so the reason that we need this is that we should be continually evolving as a man, working on ourselves, identifying the things that we want to improve, and also trying to be better in our relationships. And when we fuck up, we should be able to say sorry, apologize for our mistake. And most men can't do that. Most men cannot have no ability to recognize when they were wrong. And even when they are wrong and they know that they were wrong, they still won't own their shit. So that is, there's lots of reason why men need other men in their life, but that would be some key pointers that I would talk to men about.
Well, interestingly, I had Dr. Robert Glover on the podcast. He wrote the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, which has sold millions of copies. And he said to me that there's a hunger among men for masculine only spaces. They don't even know that they have. But when they actually are introduced to a masculine only space, that's a real masculine only space, not just a place where a bunch of males hang out. And I put males in air quotes because that doesn't mean it's a masculine only space just because there's males there, right?
Yes.
But if it's a real masculine only space and they're in it, most men, like you can actually have interactions like this. You can actually talk straight and be spoken to straight, not like you're a wallflower who's going to break if you talk to them too directly. And most men respond well to that. And the problem with our community and our world today is I think too many men have been raised in a feminized fashion. They actually think that's good for them. And it's really fucking not. It's really not. My woman said to me, so I've raised two sons, right? And one of them is, he's 19, he's working full time. He's actually working 7 days a week, 90 hours a week. He loves what he does. He's on a path. And she said to me, your son is incredibly mature. And she said that he's just nothing ruffles him. He's always calm. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't get pissed off. And it's true. My boy's 19 and he's got it all going on there. And she said, as a woman, I find that incredibly attractive in a man. That ability for a man to stay calm in the face of a storm or anger is incredibly attractive. And I believe one of the reasons men ought to be in a masculine only space is to see that, learn about it, and learn how to model it and live it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the objection that I get from so many men that I talk to about this work is, I don't need this, or I don't have time for this, or, just, like kind of like a brush off. And, what I always say to folks is come to one meeting and see if you get value. Yeah. I'm not asking you to make any commitment other than see if you get value around the things that we worked on and how we are as men, and see if it makes sense for you in your life. I think everybody should try one thing on in their life and see if those things make sense. And there's really a lot of, there's a lot of fear of this is, negative masculine space. And it's just simply an environment where you can be yourself. You can drop your mask. Men are going to listen to you. It's a real environment and offer you an opportunity to have some positive feedback, or feedback that you can gain value in terms of the direction that you might want to go.
A man who says, I don't need this is like a man who says, I really don't need to brush my teeth. I think I'm fine. See, there's nothing wrong with them. I don't need to brush them. They're fine. I mean, we as men need other men. That's fucking the bottom line. The whole self-sufficiency conversations, which you shouldn't need anybody else. You shouldn't need anything else. I mean, up to a point, I understand the impulse behind it, but it really isn't true. We need other people. We need money. We need like people who go, you gotta be financially self-sufficient. Well, being financially self-sufficient really means that you're out there and engaging in activities that allow you to have money, which means you need other people in order to have those activities take place that allow you to make money. Money doesn't just come from the fucking sky or the ether. Being emotionally self-sufficient, people say, well, it's a man who doesn't need the approval of others. And, I get that. You shouldn't be seeking the approval of others. But can you imagine a man who didn't care about anybody else's approval whatsoever in any way, shape, or form? Like, that's fucking crazy. Of course, I want approval from certain people. I want the approval of my family, my woman, my kids, my good friend. Of course I do. The point isn't to not have any approval or not care about any sort of approval. The point is to, not be an approval seeking machine who does everything just based on seeking approval. But as a human being, as a man in the world, you're a human organism who needs things and needs others. There's a good distinction between I don't need this to, this isn't a preference in my life right now. But you're foolish if you think you don't need other men. It's just as foolish as thinking you don't need toothpaste and brushing your teeth.
Yeah. The thing that resonated with me when I was talking to one of my men who I enrolled in a weekend was I asked him, do you have any good men in your life? And he said, yeah, I have my dad. I said, great. And how often are you talking to your dad? He's like, once a year. And I'm like, so when something real comes up in your life, who do you talk to about it? I talk to my woman. Talk to my woman about it. Well,
that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
Exactly. And, what I would say to the listeners of this podcast who are thinking about this work is, do you really have good men in your life? Because having good men who give a shit will really be there for you when the going gets tough. And Lord knows things could be going great in your life, and all of a sudden we're in the freaking shitter, right? Boom, we're just stuck in the bottom of the sinkhole.
Yeah,
it is infinitely valuable because we will all go through it. Life could be great, and then life could go bad, and just having the opportunity to have other people really, not offer you advice, but ask you questions about the shit that you're going through to help you resolve it in your own mind. It has been just super valuable for me, and I think valuable for anyone who's willing to engage in the work, willing to work on themselves.
Yeah, 100%. One of my men who runs Sovereign Man with me, his name's Arpa, and Arpa's a man who really has his shit together. You know what I mean? He's calm. He doesn't lose his shit. He runs a multi-million-dollar business with his brother. He got a good marriage, 2 daughters. Although fuck, when they become teenagers, he's fucked. As soon as those girls become teenagers, he's totally fucked. But
yeah, amen. Yeah, 100%.
100%. But he said to me, I asked him, why do you do this work? Because you seem like you really have your shit together. Like, you don't fucking really need them. And he said insurance. He said, I look at it as insurance. He said, yeah, day to day, there's nothing I need from the men. But from time to time, shit comes up, and I like to know that I'm covered. And shit has come up for him. It doesn't happen all the time. And it's not something that, he's not one of those men that goes through life going, fuck, I need help with this, I need help with that. He handles most things really well on his own. But there are the times when shit does come up in his life, and he's really grateful he's got some men around him to help him deal with it. And that's that insurance conversation's good. And I also think there's something called Glasser choice theory. I don't know if you're familiar with Glasser choice theory, but basically it says that as a human being, we learn the fastest, the most, and the best when we're teaching to others. So if you read something, you retain 10% of it. If you hear it in like a lecture on a YouTube video, you retain 20% of it, right? If you take notes, you return 30% of it. But buddy, if you take what you learned and you teach it to another man, you retain 95%. So for a man who's got his shit together, you really want to get better. What you ought to be doing is learning shit and then teaching it to others. That's actually been my number one strategy for learning shit in my life, is I go learn something, I start teaching it to other people.
I love it. What resonates with me around that thought, Blue, is, a man who is not chasing success is just spending time.
Yeah.
And for your man who, like, doesn't need much, or it really has his shit together, that's great. But what else can you work on in your life? What else can you get better at? Because we might be 80% or 70%, but can we get to 90 or 100%? Can we find a way to really master whatever that skill is and even improve a little more? And so, point being is that if you're not working on yourself, if you're not focusing on things that maybe you could do better, you're spending time. You're not moving to the next level, and that's what makes for me, that's what makes this work so damn exciting. It's like, shit, I'm not fucking stuck there anymore. I got this.
Yes.
And you know what? And then I fall back again, and then I have my men. They remind me of where I was or what I did do, and I'm grateful for that, because we need that reminder as men. Fucking leave our ego at the door and find a way to really work on ourselves.
Yeah, man. 1000 fucking percent. And here's the truth. If as a man or a fucking human being, you're not actively pursuing your growth plan, you are actively regressing. If you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So
Yeah.
anybody who says, I got it all figured out, I don't need to do anything, they're an idiot, right? So 3 years ago, just under 3 years ago, February 2nd, 2023, I made a decision that I was going to get in shape, because over a dozen-year period, I put on over 50 pounds, right? And I used to be like a top fitness coach. I was in shape, blah, blah. So I hired a guy, and with his help, over a 6-month period, I dropped 58 pounds. I went from 227 to 160.
Fuck
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I was ripped, abs, whole bit. And then I thought to myself, okay, I need another goal. So my next goal is I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition, because that's his background. So did the bodybuilding competition, reshaped my body, kept eating good, kept training, kept focusing on good sleep habits and recovery. And a year and a bit later, in August of 2024, I did a bodybuilding competition for 35 and over. I was 57 at the time, a day shy of 57. And I came in third, going up against guys
Nice.
way younger than me. And I looked at myself and I thought, fuck, I'm 57, I look good. And then my coach came to me and he said, why don't you go for your IFBB Pro Bodybuilding card at 60? There's a category which will allow you to go for that card. And I said, but I don't want to be a pro bodybuilder. He says, do it just because. And he just kind of smiled at me. And I just thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. It's going to force me to stay in a discipline. So that was the summer of 2024. And I was 57, August 12th, 2024, right? So that's a 3-year journey to 2027 before I can even, compete for that designation. But I said, I'm going to do it. And I've been doing it. I eat according to plan every day. I don't cheat. I work out 6 days a week. I focus on my rest, recovery. And so in the year and a bit since that's happened, I'm 58 and a half now, bro, I feel younger, stronger, more vital.
Oh,
My testosterone levels are up naturally. I'm not taking no fucking testosterone supplements or anything like that, or, like shots. I'm 58 years old, man. I feel like I'm 38. I've got the mental clarity of a younger man. I've got the sex drive of a younger man. Why? Because there's a path which I'm following. And a part of the reason I'm doing this is because I'm with men. I'm in a men's group. So being with a group of men forces me to constantly be looking at, how do I become a better man?
I want to say in that, Baloo, we talk about in the weekend one point that if you're not taking care of your wellness, you'll be taking care of your illness.
Yeah.
If you're not taking care of your wellness, you'll be taking care of your illness. And, so you identify that, where you're going wrong, and you feel great about it. It fills you up. Your energy is good. Your mental clarity is good. It's like a natural therapist going to the gym, because it just gets your endorphins running, your body feels good, and you're taking care of yourself. And, I think that, when I found this years ago, it's just a great path. And it's crucial, because if you're not strong as an elderly man, you're going to not live well. You're going to be
No.
going to the doctor instead of going to the gym, and likely you'll have injuries that you wouldn't have had otherwise, or not have as good a quality of life. That's the most important reason. It's like quality of life. Because when you're strong, when you're healthy, you could, take that 5 mile walk when you're on vacation, or you could hike that mountain. Things that you couldn't do if you weren't taking care of yourself. So I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. So, in 2025, Justin Sterling, the creator of the Sterling Men's Weekend, passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And his work is something that many of us men feel deserves to be preserved. And unfortunately, he didn't do a lot to create a structure for his legacy to be passed on. I know you're a part of a group of men that are doing a lot to preserve his legacy and to ensure that his work can be brought to other men. I would really like you to talk about that, what the genesis of all that was, what you men are doing, where you're doing it, why you're doing it, so that men can understand how to participate in this work.
I love it. So, for me, being involved, when I started getting involved in this men's work, it was about 2 years ago. And I mean, in the weekends that we're putting on. And what we recognize in our tribe is that without the Sterling Weekend, without the opportunity to bring men through the initiation process, that our tribes, our teams were dying. And this work was just so valuable for me and so many of the men in Vermont, in New Hampshire, in Maine. And we recognize that, if we didn't come up with a solution on our own, that this gift, I mean, truly, this gift that we have in our lives as men would be lost.
Yeah.
And so where that brought us is, how do we make this happen? And, so fortunately, we have a lot of men who were involved in this work. And we were able to put together this weekend. And, it really is, it is nothing short of my greatest honor and privilege to be one of the presenters in this men's work. Because not only in the way that this work touched me, but in the ability to touch other men.
Yes.
With this material, and when it's presented in a package like this, how it resonates with men, and hearing from people as their lives are changing, as they move from the weekend, and as they're doing the work in their circles, and where they go. And not only that, but the revitalization of our tribe in Vermont, where we've added, I don't know, 40 or 50 men over the last 2 years. And each weekend we add, exponentially more than the last weekend, because the men who have done the weekend are so pumped up and doing so well in their lives that they enroll more men. And, so it has just been, a total gift. We've put a incredibly polished weekend on for men. And for anyone listening to this, I would encourage you to reach out to Baloo, reach out to me. The weekends happen in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. I believe there is a trip happening this year in May, coming out of Toronto. And, this weekend will give you more value than you can imagine. We have involved in this so many volunteers, so many people are passionate about this. And the gift is what we have gotten, and then our ability to share it and really, help men to recognize where they are, where they're going, and how to do their best in their lives, in their relationships, with their families, with their people, their work, and taking care of themselves.
So what made you decide to become part of the presenting team, first of all?
Yeah, it was a no fucking brainer. Like, literally, I talk for a living, so I talk to a lot of people. I've been passionate about this work. I've been involved in, ongoing Sterling Men's courses. And, when I was offered the opportunity, there was a man who was doing it, and he's like, I really don't have time for this. And he just wasn't passionate about it. I'm like, well, if you don't fucking believe in this 110%, then obviously you shouldn't be presenting it. The men will know that. And So, I was asked, it was at an incredibly busy point in my life. I was remodeling my house, business. I had added a bunch of new people to my office. So I was just incredibly busy. And, I was waiting for myself, like, do I have time for this? And the answer was, fuck yeah, I do. No question, because this is the most important step that I've taken in my life of all the things that I've done. I look at the weekend, the date that I did the weekend, and I look at my life before the weekend and how my life was after the weekend. Like, it's that much of a change for me. And to have that opportunity to, have that impact on the men's lives, I'll just share that, we had a chance. There was a man in one of our weekends who was really struggling with his home life. And, we he talked a lot about it. And, I was in touch with him afterwards and had a chance to meet his kids. And I saw his kids, and I was really struggling to hold back tears because his relationship I could see was improving, going to be better. And, he was there for them. And, following this man, his life has dramatically changed. One of the most important things if you have kids is to try to hold that relationship together, because when you separate, it's really abusive on the kids. And so to find a way to be in that relationship. And so the point being is we've had that kind of impact on this man, on his kids, right? So it's not only the man's life that we changed, but it was his marriage, his children, the trajectory of his children. And, just to be able to give that to people is, there could be nothing more fulfilling in my life.
Oh, amen. I've been part of sending God's 60, maybe 70 men to weekends. I got a vision to grow Sovereign Man to 10,000 men. And for that to happen, we need men to deliver this work. This year, my goal is to bring 50 new men into our work, into our community at Sovereign Man. And we charge for being a member, because I think men need to have skin in the game. I don't believe in making men's communities free. I've been in free communities. I just think in the long run, it's better that there is payment involved. And frankly, there's a lot of effort we're putting into it and spending our own time and money. So all of that makes sense for me. But I'm very grateful to partner with you and your men in Maine to bring men to this work and to have these men take what they're learning, bring it into their lives, bring it into the Sovereign Man community so that masculine only spaces continue to grow. And that's the bottom line.
And we're excited to have the men from Toronto join us. And we have men coming from New York, from Massachusetts. We had men in the last weekend from I think Kentucky, one man from the West Coast, and
we had one man from fucking Portugal, the Azores, brother.
Yeah. Yes. And so it's really cool to see how we've grown, and we just have an incredibly talented production group who is just dedicated to putting on the very best weekend we can. The weekend is happening May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
That's right.
We know the bus is going out, and we look forward to meeting the men who are going to be there and joining us for this event.
God bless you, brother. Keep up the good work. And we will continue to be in conversation and in dialogue about helping bring more men to the work of men. And we're going to send more men to your weekend. And you send them back to us, to our community. And I think it's going to work out as a beautiful partnership, as they say.
Love it. And yeah, the only thing I would say, in closing, I guess, is, make your changes real. Think about what it is that you want to do, where you want to go, where you want to be, and work with your sponsor to really give your all, because we'll help you get there.
Amen. Transformation's real. Transformation's possible, especially if you find good men and put your trust in those men. to show you your own path. At the end of the day, you got to take your own steps to make that path come alive for you. Nobody else can do it for you, but other men can be around you and encourage you and pick you up when you stumble, because we're all going to stumble. I've stumbled, you've stumbled, and I'm going to stumble more. And that really is the truth. Every single one of us benefits from having good men around us. A group of good men can take a man whose life is a 4 or a 5 and help him, just by being around them, take his life to a 7 or an 8. That means that, let's say you're earning, I don't know, under 70,000 a year. Those men can take you to the position where you're earning over 120,000. That means if your relationship is in the shit or you have no relationship, it can make that relationship work really well, or it can make you attract a really great relationship. That means if your health and fitness is in a bad place, where you're overweight and you've got all kinds of comorbidities. Don't you love that phrase? Comorbidities, like diabetes, you've potential risk of heart attack, cancer, or stroke. It can reduce those, and it can make you be an aesthetically more appealing man by helping you, lose unwanted, unsightly fat and gain strength. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing as a man. When you're around other men, they'll just force you to go up. And I've got dozens of examples of men who just simply by being with a group of other men became better, did better, and enjoyed their life more. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's finding your purpose. What is it that drives you? What is it that fills you up? Whether it's, taking care of your community, taking care of your family, doing well, taking care of your body, and continuing to work on and improve yourself. We should never be stagnant. We've already talked about this, but you always have something that you can make better in your life. And why stand still? Don't accept the status quo. Don't accept like, hey, I'm as good as I'm going to be. Fuck that. You can get whatever you want, and use your men. Use your men to get you there.
Amen.
That's what we're here for. And you may be able to really add value, like the man you talked about earlier, to other men. If you're at a high level of success, you may be able to teach them, and that also will fill you up, because they'll see from you, someone who's a mentor, someone who that they can want to follow a path, and that will give you a lot as well.
Yeah, and teaching other men will improve your ability to implement what you're teaching in your own life. And that's the bottom line that everybody's got to understand.
Oh.
Yeah. Axelrod, it's been a fucking slice, brother.
I appreciate it so much. It's great to see your face and have a chance to have this conversation, and look forward to meeting you men back in May.
Amen. And we'll do this again. Take care.
Look forward to it.
All right. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.